You treat me like a princess even though I'm being a Cruella de Vil, you know?
In the last 6 years, Priscilla and I have been married for a while. We met each other at 19, got married within a year, in 4 months, actually 4 to 6 months, the age of 20. And we had to learn to love each other to be able to get to where we are and run a six-figure business together. A lot of trial and error, a lot of stuff learned. Today we're going to talk about that, what it's like being married at 26 years old and being able to run multiple businesses, stuff like that. So, like I was saying, Priscilla and I have been married for 6 years now. We met each other at 19. We met each other in high school, but we really started to talk to each other when I was 19, or we were 19 and we got married 6 months, or planned to get married 6 months right after we got married, which was wild.
Wait, what?
6 months after we dated.
Yeah, for sure, not 6 months. It was a year.
We
We got married like at the year mark.
We got married at the year mark,
Yeah.
but in that 6 months, we've decided, all right, let's.
No, it was 9 months because we had 3 months
You think
to plan
so?
a wedding. Yeah.
Okay. Well, in that 9 months, we decided to get married, and we, since then, have been together, and learned to love each other. So, when we started dating, what do you think that was like for us, or personally? How did you feel, me being at home or being at work all the time, me being working multiple hours on the business and barely any time with you? What did that feel like?
Ooh. Like when we first got married?
Yeah, first got married, first year of marriage. Let's circle back to that.
Okay. I don't know. I feel like the hard, like it was a hard first year of marriage, not because like it was hard, but because we just were away for so long. It wasn't like the stage where everyone says like, oh, it's a honeymoon stage, or like you guys are gonna fight because you guys are gonna live with each other. I feel like for us it was more of like we just never saw each other, so I felt very lonely. But that also had a lot to do with your work. Just you working 12 hours during the night, so then you'd be gone all night, and then I'd work during the day. So we just had opposite schedules. But I think getting married young I think it was fun. I think it has like a cool story for us now, but at the time it was, yeah, at the time it was like everyone assumed we got married young because like I had people tell me like, oh, like, are you pregnant? And I'm like, oh, no. Like that. And then I think it's also like different though because we did know of each other during high school. We knew who we were during that time, but we did get to know each other for those 9 months too, so forth. And we always just like saw each other on like Instagram, walking by in classrooms and stuff.
So likewise, I think for me as well, that first month was just honestly the first 3, 4 years while I was in the military was just work. It was nothing else. My mindset personally, while Priscilla's was more stability and making sure that we were stable, my mindset was I'm building something. I want to be financially free and I want to build something that will feed my family for generations. The struggle with that was as you're in a relationship, and because and I didn't have time to vet each other, we didn't ask certain questions like people our age or friends our age are asking their girlfriends of how they think. Priscilla and I just basically winged it from the get-go, yeah, and said, let's figure it out. Let's do it. And it caused a lot of tension. It caused a lot of stuff. And so reason why I say that is because of that mindset. She wanted a more stable life of stable finances, good job, good career. Let's go to college, while I wanted to, let's do this, let's build a business, let's build something that will feed the family for generations. And at first, she understood the concept, but she didn't necessarily agree with the non-stability, and it was a little bit of a friction in our relationship in the first 3 years, mainly the first year, but the first 3 years in total, to get her to believe in that. But also I didn't have any revenue coming in at that point, so it's also hard to believe something you can't see. And then on top of that, Priscilla was very, very good at making sure that because I believed in it and I was so passionate about it, that she supported it. And so she made sure everything was good for me, from food to clothes to the house being in order. And she really didn't have to work even back then, but in all reality, she went to work and supported what we were doing, even though I was working all these hours, crazy hours with the military, and then likewise building something that made no money for 2 3 years, and really really trying to invest in our future as a family. She made sure everything was good so I could perform at the end of the day. Within that first year, that was probably, at least in my eyes, the biggest thing. Was the hardest part for me as a man, was trying to find a way to provide and make sure she was taken care of, but also trying to find a way that we could get out of the military, because we knew the military was not going to be there forever. So in my eyes, that was what I was going through. For you, it was.
I think for me, the first year of marriage was like very lonely, and it like sucked. 100% sucked. I hated living in North Dakota. Like, would strongly discourage anyone to move there. It was just super lonely. There wasn't I we both grew up San Diego, so moving from beautiful, sunny, thriving San Diego to um Applebee's in Cold Stone, North Dakota wasn't exhilarating for me, and I just had to like rebuild a whole life. And Danny was busy just with the military, and then that's kind of when he started dabbling in just different things. From he started off with like stocks, and then he did like drop shipping and just like a bunch of different avenues that he tried. And for me, I was very much more of like the stability. So it was hard to see like we would have money coming in, but it would all go low key like down the drain. Like it just went down the drain from him like trying so many things, like trial and error, which was it's fine. Like I understand it now, but at the time I was like, dude, like you're wasting all this money and you're not making money, you know? Like the military paid him like the bare minimum. So it was just really hard. And then just having a support system was also very hard, leaving family. But we were also just very different people. Both of us grew up very differently, where our goals and our values just weren't aligned. They didn't blend. So yeah, that's my.
So moving out of the military from year one. So that was year one. That was recapping of kind of what the first 3 years was like, but mainly first year. As we got into the third year of marriage, that was when we were about getting out of North Dakota, and things started to change. That's where the marriage kind of started to grow a little bit, but had the biggest death for us was in the third year. So at that third year, I get orders to leave North Dakota finally, and the military was going to pay me to live in Austin, Texas to do the Skill Bridge program to go intern for another company. So during that time, I bought a house sight unseen, and usually the wife is going to want to see the home, going to want to have a choice in what they're picking. Priscilla had no choice. I told her, this is a home I'm buying. It's a duplex. It's in Austin. I'm buying it. We're going. We're getting out. So Priscilla was like going crazy with the just being able to do what she wanted to do, and also getting out of North Dakota. She was hyped. So we went to Austin. We renovated the home, and during that time, it was probably the lowest of the low, because I felt like I was being disrespected. I was hanging out with Priscilla a lot more than I had in North Dakota, funny enough. And because I felt like we started to date again, that's when I got to realize her habits and the way that she talks and the way that she grew up is so different than how I grew up. And so a lot of the times when I would be doing stuff, paying the bills, doing everything, making sure that I'm providing for the family, I felt like anything she was saying was coming out of her mouth felt like disrespect to me, but it was just the way she was talking. So for a lot of it, I kept telling her and she wouldn't understand. When I would tell her, I'm like, yo, you can't talk to me like that, like I'm the man. It just didn't correlate.
I think a lot of it had to do with like our differences, though, like with us being raised so differently. That was like always like a tension point of how I say things and my face to them, you know, like I'm a very straightforward to the T person. I'm not going to sugarcoat something for someone, even if I have to pretend to like you. Like, I'm just going to say it as it is. Whereas Danny was raised more, you put on a face. And I mean, I just don't do that. So it was just really hard for us to communicate overall, just because we were raised so differently. Even in the matter of like how we love very differently. And that goes back to like the beginning where like Danny and I had to learn to love each other. It wasn't, when we got married, it wasn't like a, oh my gosh, we're the love of each other's lives, like at all. It was, all right, like you're down, I'm down, okay, bet, like let's get married, you know? And I think that's where a lot of like our passion comes from, when we like talk to people, of like helping people try to choose the right person and do and make the right decisions. Within the past few years, we've had more people like reach out to us of like marriage advice, business advice, and like how we make that blend, which is the whole point of this. Is a lot of it has to do with how we learned to love each other and how we grew to make it work, with our communication, with our life skills, with our finances, and so forth.
Priscilla's saying there's just a lot of differences in the way that we grew up. And because of those differences, that's something you should probably consider when you're doing relationships.
Do your research.
We didn't really think about that. For instance, Priscilla's family love him to death. Priscilla's family's very hardworking, but the women are the ones that aren't necessarily the decision makers, but they are allowed to speak. They hold a lot of weight. They hold a lot of value into the family. Where into my family, they're hard workers, but what the man says goes. The man provides, the man does everything. The man is the one that you don't talk over, you don't put your opinion in. The woman has no say in putting over the man. The woman just does her womanly duties, and that's how it is. So a lot of the ways she was talking and things she was saying, I felt like she was coming in and saying a bunch of bullshit that didn't fucking matter. Like, I'm the one that's feeding you. Like, you don't bite the hand you eat.
Yeah, so a lot of that has to do with like what he was saying, is like we were just raised so differently, where my dad always allowed us to have a voice. My dad always allowed us to, we don't want to eat something, like, okay, like what do you like, he'd always consider us in every single thing he does, from how he talks to us to how he loves us, in every aspect. So that is very accurate. Just, I've always had a voice. I've always had an opinion. If I don't like something, I was allowed to say I don't like something. But it also was really hard, just because Danny wasn't raised that way. It was like I was supposed to shut the fuck up and just don't say anything, regardless of who's paying for what. Like, I would say that when we got married, like, I was paying my own stuff. Danny took care of like the rent. I took care of the groceries. I paid my own car bill. Like, I was independent to a certain extent. But it was just that tension of so many differences.
The biggest part in that third year was the depth. It was finances. We weren't nearly where we wanted to be. We bought the home, which was great, and it was making us money on Airbnb, but we didn't, relationship wise, we weren't where we wanted to be. We were just not syncing financially. We were always still chasing a dollar, and I was the one that was working a lot of the times, and Priscilla was working, but she wasn't making enough cheddar. So I was like, bro, like, I understand I'm doing all this, but like, you're gonna be disrespecting me, I'm gonna be paying for everything, and you're not bringing that in. It just was a conflict. So that's when we decided, or Priscilla decided, I'm gonna go to therapy, and that's when everything changed. So moving into like the changing part, unless you want to add something.
Like, all of that goes back to like day one of us getting married. Is day one of us getting married, like, I just gave up everything. I gave up everything I had in San Diego, my family, my friends, my education, like everything. So Danny was taking care of me. Even like when we bought a house, it was the ultimatum of, well, like, you can go to school and be in debt, or we can buy a house. So I grew a lot of, I would say, like, kind of resentment towards Danny, just because like I gave up so much, and like all of our money went to all of his trials and errors and successes now, you know, but a lot of it was a lot of hurt on my end because he chased his dreams and I just gave all of mine up. It was just Danny had eventually grew into this business mindset where I was like, well, I really want to go to school. Like, I can take out student loans because I didn't qualify for anything because we were married, which is stupid because we were broke. He was getting paid what, like $13 in the military. I was working part time out of school, and I didn't qualify for anything. So it was just eventually when Danny reached that pivotal point of like, hey, he's all in real estate, and we were moving back to Austin. I was like, school's very important to me. I was raised to believe school is super important. Um, just the fact that I'm in America, I have the opportunity to do that. Not that anyone has to, but for me, it was my parents didn't get that opportunity. So for me, it's just to take it, even if I don't use it. But yeah, so it was the ultimatum of buy a house or go to school, be in debt, and Danny emphasized that a lot on me. He was like, "Well, you're gonna be in debt," and I kind of just like shut down to the point where I was like, okay, well, like it doesn't matter anymore. Like at that point, how old were we? Like 22, 3? And I was like, okay, like everyone's graduating already. Now I have to start all over. So I just gave it up. I was like, whatever. And it just, I had a lot of hurt from it. Danny and I weren't communicating the best. And that goes back to like what he was saying is like eventually it got to the point where like we were having those problems where I was like struggling and I chose to go to therapy because it was the best decision for me. It was a me decision of something has to change, and Danny was nowhere close to thinking he was a problem or needed to change in any way. Um so I went to therapy. I went for myself and I went for how long? Like a year to just work on myself and how I talk and like all of those pinpoints of just my background, my childhood, our marriage, our finances, and so forth.
And that's where it really took a change. Was Priscilla was very much in her head, and she hated when I would say that she was in her head. I would just like, just figure it out, suck it up type of deal. And Priscilla hated that because I didn't give her that emotional connection or that emotional intelligence to be able to say,
Validation.
yeah, or that validation at all to make her feel a certain way. And so it once that happened, everything started to change because she went to therapy. She would tell me what happened, and she would tell me like basically I'm wrong for doing this because XYZ. And I'd be like, thank fucking God, your therapist, I love this guy. He finally agreed. And then she was like, but will you go to therapy with me? And I was like, hell no.
And that was my way of saying like he needed therapy. I intentionally worded that where I was like, "Hey, like I really need you to go to therapy for me. Like in order for me to change, like I need your support. So I would really love for you to go to therapy with me."
So once we went to therapy, or once Priscilla mentioned that she wanted me to go to therapy, I told her absolutely not. And really, she got me with by saying like, "Hey, this isn't for you. It's for me." And I looked at her and I was like, "All right, well then sign it up." I ended up doing a session by myself with our therapist. Great guy. I walk in there. I'm like, "Bro, this is so weird. This is so weird." And so go in there. He starts asking me questions about how I grew up. I told him, and then he started pulling them out of like, do you think because when you grow up, because the way you grew up, that you act this way because of something your family did? And they'd give me an example of what my family would do, and maybe he's like, maybe that's a trigger of why you hate Priscilla communicating with you that way. You feel like this family member used to make you do XYZ when this happened. So when Priscilla does it, it's an automatic trigger and you get mad or you get disrespected. And my mind just blew up right then and there. I was like, holy shit. I was like, that makes fucking sense. And from there, we kept going every week. And then eventually we went bi weekly, monthly, and then we synced together. 3 years down the road, we still see him to this day. And he has transformed our relationship absolutely, because at that point we were at a low because I was feeling disrespected and I was like, bro, I'm ready to just cut ties. And we went.
With me?
We went.
Did you just say you're gonna cut ties with me?
We went.
What the fuck? Same.
We went. We went, and she.
We were broke anyways.
We went, and she was able to work on herself, and think she had similar experiences that I did, and then likewise when I went to work on myself with him, we came back and it started becoming fun talking about like, dude, I do this because of this, and she's like, I do this because of this, my family.
I think like overall it just gave us so much perspective of like we see people and we see relationships, and when we're dating, like that's our biggest advice now is we don't ever want to encourage someone to just jump into a relationship, because that's what we did essentially. I mean, 9 months, but we didn't do our due diligence of like I didn't know Danny's background. I didn't know his past. I didn't know how he was raised. Like a lot of things, like generationally, like those weren't things I was searching for. I was just having the time of my life. Like, oh yeah, like this is so much fun. We're dating. We're going out to eat. Like, it's so cool. It wasn't like our mindsets weren't like, wow, this is like my forever person. We just loved hanging out with each other and just had so much fun. But then we got married and it was holy shit, like we're so different. Like you have all these traumas, I have all these traumas, and now we're like kind of in a pickle of how are we communicating and how are we going to make this better? And therapy was just what changed us. Like it changed us completely. It was a game changer and totally transformed us, like Danny said.
Me, it was like, bro, why are you so liberal? Like, why do you think like you can just talk about your emotions? I hated the word trauma. So me at the times I was like, dude, like you're way too intact with your emotions. Now looking
He also thought I was talking shit all the time. Like, I would bring something up. He'd be like, why are you talking shit? Like, why are you so negative? Why are you this? Like, it's not like that. And so then I felt like I was an awful person because I'd like point things out. I'm like, hey, Danny, like, I don't like how you said this to me. And like, for him, it was just a norm. Like, that's just how things were. And he would just immediately, like, it would be my fault. But I was like, damn, like, it is my fault. And eventually that got in my head, and I was very open, and I was raised to say how you feel, obviously, like to a certain extent. Like if you fall off a bike, like yeah, cry but keep going. But that wasn't something Danny was really taught, was the emotional intelligence of, hey, you are allowed to be sad, hey, you are allowed to be mad, but you have to regulate it. There's a time and place, but there's also not a time and place. Like if you really want to cry right now, like you can cry about things. Like things are sad, things are happy. Like experiences have long-term effects, and until you really talk about them and open up and find your person of, hey, like this is how it made me feel, but now this is the long-term effect of it. How can I change it because it's affecting my relationship? And that went for both of us.
and for myself it was more so like men don't cry, like let's go get with it type of deal. And so I didn't really have emotional intelligence at the time or any. I couldn't emotionally validate her. I hate PDA. I to this day do not want to hug or kiss Priscilla in front of anyone. That's weird to me.
Whereas I love it. My parents were, even to this day, like my parents hold hands in public. Like they give each other's hugs. They say they love each other in front of people. It's like just general, like happy love. And like as an adult, like my dad still gives me that love where if I see him, he comes and gives me a hug and a kiss, and I'm always reminded of how much I'm loved. Whereas when I got married with Danny, it was like, okay, bye. And I'm like, where's my hug and kiss? You know, like that was something that was instilled in me because I saw my dad do it. And I saw my dad do it with like me and all of my sisters of he's always giving us a hug and a kiss goodbye, like giving us like his blessing. And I always knew, like, even to this day, like before I left my house today, like I said hi to my dad. I gave him a hug and a kiss. Like I have his blessing. If something were to happen to him or something were to happen to me, like I know we were so loved, and like that's a lot. Like that's the last thing, you know.
And so for us, it was just a ton of differences. And I mean, we can go on about that. But therapy really helped us understand that there's a lot of differences that we didn't learn at the beginning stages, which are things you may want to vet out before you really, really get to know and or marry somebody that can be a struggle. But moving into the good. So that was where our dip was. That was when we started to learn about each other and really where we started to date each other again, even though we were already married, and go over those steps that we missed. As year 4, 5, and 6 came along, that's where business grew and we really started to align with each other. Where Priscilla, she not only still took on the role of being motherly, taking care of everything, taking care of our dog, the chores, the house. She was going to work, all this other stuff. But that's where I personally found business partners to help me move into this other path of creating wealth. And then likewise, Priscilla was encouraging me. She started cold calling as well and hopping onto the business. She was doing things that she didn't have to do, even though she didn't like it, to help the business move. And now, fast forwarding to today, that's where she was able to create for herself different opportunities to be able to be in real estate, which she didn't have to do. I told her she does not have to be in real estate, but she found different opportunities to be able to grow.
I want to add, like, throughout, like, all of this, like, once we hit therapy, and, like, even before that, like, a big thing about Danny and I is, like, we never gave up. Like, even when we had, like, this dip, as much as, like, I want to say, like, Danny probably didn't want to be with me, I didn't want to be with Danny, like, we never gave up. We always showed up, and, like, we never gave up on our love for each other, no matter how different we were and how many struggles we had, like, even financially, like, everything, like, we always showed up and we put a face whether we wanted to or not. Some days were just harder than others, but we never gave up. And I think that's something, like, amazing about Danny, and something that I would always encourage someone and, like, give advice to is find someone who's not going to give up on you, who has the mindset of, like, I'm going to, like, me and Danny, our thing is, like, ride or die. And Danny was for sure ride or die for me. Like, he took care of me, and it was navigating, like, how shitty of a person I was, and, like, all of my flaws, and, like, how he felt so disrespected. Like, he still stuck by me and, like, helped me learn how to be a better person, how to be a better wife, and, like, how to find value in myself now, where we're at now. And I think that's like so pivotal. It's what makes us at the end of the day. It's what makes our businesses. We've always supported each other even when we don't feel like it, or we don't feel worthy of it. Is we just always lift each other up. And yeah, and I think that that's part of our huge success in, like, businesses. We always supported one another.
And as we were building the business, she played a huge role in that, in making sure that when I was going through it with the business and cold calling and finding homes, finding storage facilities, anything that I was looking for real estate wise, when the going got tough, she would basically, when I would shut down at times when I had the hardest of days, and she would come to me and she would tell me, like, no, you didn't work this hard for nothing. And she would make sure that I knew that I'm going to fulfill what I had to fulfill. And she was that emotional background that I never really got a lot growing up, to be able to say, you can do this, Danny. Like, let's go, let's keep going. So today for the business, she played a huge role in not only even making sure that everything was taken care of at home, not also being able to provide financially into the business, also doing the dirty work of the cold calling and all this other stuff when I couldn't. And she was learning the business that she did not love, but at the end of the day, as she was saying she didn't give up, she told me herself that if we had to live under a bridge, if we had to lose everything, that she would stick by my side. And same to for me, where I think everything at the end of the day aligned was for myself. I gave her one promise when we got married, and that was, you either are with me or you're without me. But if you're with me, I'll take care of you in every aspect, and I'll never make you lift a finger. To this day, I still have that value where I buy her shit all
Aww,
the time.
you're so cute.
I buy her shit
Aww.
all the time, and it is the most rewarding thing ever. From this car to
Oh, you're making me cry.
from this car to literally everything. That my way of showing love isn't the words; it's by showing action. In the last 6 years, I think
Oh,
I think I did that.
yeah. Oh, that was so cute. I think like it just like really clicked for me like when you just said that like the ride or die. Like I don't know. I think I'm just like this past like this year has only been like what 60 days, and we've just hit so many goals. And yeah, I'm just like super thankful for you. And I think it's amazing like our story of like how far we've come like in regards to just like business, and you just always having my back, like you do take care of me. You treat me like a princess even though I'm being a Cruella DeVille. And I love you for that. I really do. And I'm so blessed to have you in my life. And I'm over here crying now. Ride or die, baby. Go ahead. I don't know what to say now.
So at the end of the day, I really think if you're going through it business wise, or some people in masterminds have asked me like, how did you find a girl that supports you and does what you do? And I really think it comes down to the quality of what Priscilla had. I could have dated a ton of other girls. I do think God placed Priscilla in my lap, considering that we passed so many times near each other down the hallway. We had classes together in high school, and she never gave me a single sign of affection or anything of that matter, or even being slightly interested. I do think it was perfect timing, and God's timing helped us at that time. But likewise, she had this quality that she would never give up, and she was not willing to give up. And I had the promise that I would take care of her for years and years to come as long as she never gave up. And because she did that, and I never voiced that to her, it was, and it seems like you just found that out.
No.
That my word means everything to me, and I never was willing to go back on that word unless she were to go do something bad or something of that matter. So I think to cap this video, at the end of the day, going through the struggles and being able to see a glimpse of what we went through, at the end of the day, it's ride or die, never give up. Just stay true to each other, and you'll figure out the rest of it. But if we could have vetted each other, we probably
Oh, for
wouldn't.
sure.
We
Yeah,
probably
I'll
wouldn't
agree
have
on
been
that one.
together.
Yeah, like in regards to like business, like I think Danny's got all that. I think in regards to like the relationship side of it is the biggest thing. Like kind of like I said, like always do your research. Like really, I always wish people to really learn about who they're dating, who they want to marry, and make it for real. Um, just so you don't have to struggle as much as like I would say we did. Is I hope like people truly love who they marry. Like, um, that's a forever thing. And there's no reason to struggle and go through divorces and things like that. You just want to find the right person, and you don't want to rush something when you have so much time. You have the ability to make something so beautiful and find someone who supports you spiritually, emotionally, financially. Like you have the opportunity to find someone that aligns, whereas like I was never told that. I was just told someone find someone you love. And we didn't even do that. We loved the idea of each other and everything, but I just I would always support someone like to find someone who they love, who they align with. Do your research on like their family, on their background, like their traumas, and take care of yourself. At the end of the day, like it comes down to you. Like how are you taking care of yourself, feeding your heart, feeding your mind, being a better person? Like what do you have to bring to the table to someone? Like if Danny were to leave me, what do I have? If I were to leave Danny, what does he bring to the table? Like you need to make yourself valuable in financially, spiritually, mentally, in all of those ways, so you can be the best version of yourself. And when you find the best version of yourself and become the best version of yourself, so many doors will open and your relationship will become so much better. Even like just even in dating, like work on yourself, really like go to therapy, like learn who you are, and get that clarity of your future, your background, your generation, all that stuff. So yeah.
To end the video, I think if anyone's going through it, leave a comment. Let us know what you're going through, or DM us personally on Instagram. We would love to either make a video for you and or give you the best advice that we can. If you want us to go deeper into business and relationships, we can. This is surface level what we've gone through at the age of 26 now and how we navigated it from 19 to 26. Now we live pretty good. Never going to be where we want to be. We are six-figure earners as a family. And obviously, we want to be able to be multimillionaires, at least for myself, some of my own ambitions. But together, we plan on building a family in the future. We plan in the near future, and we plan on just continuing loving each other and going on these fancy trips and having an absolute stud of a daughter and son to be able to call our own. So, and hopefully they do the same in the future and make mistakes and build this world into what they want. So,
Yeah. And with that,
ride.
or die, baby.
There you go.
Give me a kiss.
No, I'm
End of the
not
kiss.
fucking.
End of the kiss.
Goodbye, guys.